Kisokyukit, you'll be spending the next half hour with us learning about the Kootenai alphabet. I'm Steve Egesdal, and I guess I'm your host, and our guests are native speakers of Kootenai. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Merle Clairmont. Sara, Bufton.
They'll be modeling the sounds that I'll describe to you. Kootenai has 28 sounds with which it makes words. There are 28 distinctive sounds, each written with its own letter. You're going to learn how to make those sounds today. There are two things you should know about making Kootenai sounds. One involves where they're made, and the other is how they're made. We call that place of articulation and manner of articulation. And as you watch this tape, there's a handout to go with it. A handout that looks like this. It's called the Kootenai alphabet. And it has all of the items you'll be hearing and will also contain some text beyond what I'm telling you. To begin with, let's talk about where sounds are made in the mouth, specifically where Kootenai sounds are made in the mouth. We're going to begin with the lips. Lip sounds or labial sounds will be familiar to you. The English P and M are similar to the Kootenai P and M. But there are additional sounds in Kootenai, a glottalized P and a glottalized M, that you'll have to learn. The next place that sounds are made is the alveolar ridge. If you take your tongue and move it behind the teeth, there's a ridge there called the alveolar ridge. The next set of sounds are made at that point. They're the T, glottalized T, S, the Kootenai barred L, N, glottalized N, C, and glottalized C. Next, there's the palate, the hard palate behind the alveolar ridge, and that is where the Y sound is made. Behind the palate is the velum, and a velar sound is made around that area of the soft palate. Those sounds are K, glottalized K, and W. Behind the velar sounds are sounds that will be new to most of you. They're called uvular sounds. If you look in a mirror down your throat, or if you have someone that you can look in their throat, there's a little flap of skin that hangs down. That's called your uvula. That means little grape in Latin. And that little grape is your uvula, and you'll need to know how to articulate sounds in that region of the mouth in order to speak Kootenai. Finally, there are sounds made in the voice box itself. Those are called laryngeal sounds. That is a glottal stop and an H. And you'll be learning how to make all these sounds, all 28 of these sounds. Those are the 22 consonants, and there are 6 vowels that you'll also learn how to make. If you look on page 2 of your handout, you'll find that the top 3 rows are called obstruents. The next 2 rows of consonants are called resonants. What's the difference between an obstruent and a resonant? It has to do with the degree of constriction or stoppage of airflow in the mouth. Obstruents tend to either stop the airflow completely coming out of the lungs or almost stop it, whereas resonants, there's much less constriction in the vocal tract. Resonants are somewhere between what we would call obstruent consonants and the vowels that we'll be studying. For consonants, we're going to begin with the stop consonants. And a stop consonant is a sound that's made where air is coming up out of the lungs through the voice box, and somewhere in the vocal tract there's a complete stoppage of the airflow, hence the name stop. They're also called plosives because when you make a stop, when you release it, there's a slight explosion of air that comes out. The first set of stops, there are 4 of them. 3 of them will be very familiar to you, and the 4th will be different. And now our native speakers will model the stops for you. Number 1, P.
Papa. 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 Papa.
Number 2, T.
Tuhul. 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 Tuhul.
Number 3, K.
Kupi. 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 Kupi.
Number 4, Q.
Kokok. 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 Kokok.
You'll notice that the first three were familiar sounds, but the Q is something that you're going to have to work on. The Q is made similar to the K, but the root of the tongue is brought up by the uvula. And what you'll need to do is get with a native speaker, try and see how a native speaker makes this sound, and practice it. It is not a K. If you make a Q like a K, you'll be confusing a lot of words. You'll also not be able to hear important differences. So you'll have to work on that sound. It is a uvular stop. There are four counterparts to the sounds you've just heard, and they're called ejectives. To make an ejective, what you do is you build up pressure behind the stop, behind the P, the T, the K, or the Q, and then you release it. And we'll have these modeled now, items 5 through 8, by our native speakers. Number 5, glottalized P.
Big. 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 Big.
Number 6, glottalized T.
Tawu. 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 Tawu.
Number 7, glottalized K.
Cut. 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 Cut.
Number 8, glottalized Q.
Kotsats. 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 Kotsats.
Do you hear that strong ejective quality? It's like a pop. Now when you make an ejective, make sure that you're not just increasing the amount of aspiration or release. So when you make a glottalized P, it isn't just taking a regular P, P, and making it stronger by going P. It's a different sound of building up pressure and saying, okay? You're going to hear a pop, and it's usually easiest to hear with the Q because the glottalized Q is closest to the source of the glottal pressure. So you'll be able to hear a glottalized Q more clearly than a glottalized P, but you'll be able to hear both of them with time. The next consonant sounds, the next type of obstruents we're going to look at, are called fricatives. Fricatives are unlike stops in that there isn't a complete stoppage of the airflow, but there's an almost complete stoppage of airflow. If you take a pin or a knife and poke a ball or an inner tube, there's a hissing that comes out. That is similar to what a fricative is. You're taking air coming out of the lungs and you're making a very small closure that you're forcing the air through. So they often have a hissing sound or a friction-like sound. There are 3 fricatives that we're going to learn how to say, items 9 through 11. Number 9, S.
Sina. 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 Sina.
Number 10, barred L.
Tawu. 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 Tawu.
And number 11, X.
Chachas. 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 Chachas.
Okay, the S will be familiar to all of you, but the barred L is going to be a little bit different, and we're going to teach you a trick now on how to pronounce that sound. Put your hand on your throat and make a Z. Z. Now put your hand on your throat and make an S. S. You'll notice that with the Z, you're vibrating your vocal cords. With your S, you're not. Otherwise, they're identical sounds. So what you can do is move from a Z to an S by just turning on your vocal cords on and off. So go zzz, zzz, zzz. Okay, now you're going to take and make an L. O, and do the same thing. Turn your vocal cords off. O, O, and that voiceless L is the way that the L is made in Kootenai. Okay? Try that. The X is also going to be an unfamiliar sound. It's a uvular fricative. What you're going to be doing is make a Q after you've practiced making the Q, and then bring the tongue away from the uvular region of the mouth just a little bit so that some air can pass through. So make your Q closure, and then force some air through it by bringing the tongue down. Okay? It's going to sound very raspy. The next group of sounds that we're going to look at are called affricates. An affricate is like a combination of a stop and a fricative. We've just looked at both of those. If you take a stop closure in the beginning and you put a fricative release on it, that's going to make an affricate. There are two affricates you're going to learn. First is 12, C.
Tsitsqom.
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 And 13, glottalized C.
Tsihlup.
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 Okay, now the C with a little slash through it, it kind of looks like a cent sign, is a special Kootenai letter that sounds like the TS sound in English cats. Only in Kootenai, the TS can come at the beginning of a syllable or elsewhere in a word. The C with the slash through it and with the apostrophe is a glottalized version of that same C. They're made, it's an ejective made in the same way that T differs from glottalized T. The next group of sounds now we'll move to are the resonants. Again, on page 2 of your chart, the first 3 rows were obstruents and the next 2 down were resonants. Again, resonants have a relatively wide channel compared to obstruents when the sound is made. Most of the plain resonants, actually all of the plain resonants will be familiar to you because they're similar to their English counterparts. 14 through 18. 14, M.
Maka.
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 15, N.
Nupko.
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 16, L.
Kulilo.
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 17, Y.
Yuat.
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 18, W.
Wahwik.
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 Okay, now the Kootenai L, not with the two, like the equal sign through it, the barred L, but the plain L, is a rare sound in the language, and most of the words that you'll find with an L in it, the L as an English L, are borrowings, and to my knowledge, they're all borrowings of some kind. The other thing about those sounds is if you listen to Yuat or Wahwik, you heard some nice ejective sounds in those final obstruents, the T in Yuat and the K in Wahwik. The resonants, plain resonants have counterparts called laryngalized resonants. And what that means is there's constriction in the voice box, in the larynx when you make these. Sometimes they're called glottalized resonants, sometimes they're called hard resonants, and they're also called laryngalized resonants. It doesn't matter what you call them as long as you learn how to make them. And the way that you make them is it's as though you are imposing a glottal stop or a glottal feature onto these sounds. They're going to sound creaky, or they're going to sound strangled or tightened. Some people like to describe them as heavy or hard. And we'll model them for you. 19, laryngalized M.
Aklum.
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 20, laryngalized N.
An.
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 Hear the quality, the extra squeezing of an, or the M in aklum. It's kind of a squeezed quality, and in final position, it has a nice release. Let's do those two again. Number 19, laryngalized M.
Aklum.
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 And number 20, laryngalized N.
An.
An. An.
Practice those sounds. Get with a native speaker. Try and listen and try and articulate those sounds. They're very important for the language. The last two consonant sounds in Kootenai are laryngals, written H, and a symbol called a glottal stop that looks somewhat like a fish hook that you've cut off a bit. The glottal stop occurs in English in the sound in the word the middle sound, or for some people in their pronunciation of button. But in Kootenai, it's a much more important sound. It's a distinctive consonant, so you'll need to practice it. Let's try 21H.
한꼬
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 22, glottal stop.
아싸우 아싸우
아샤오
아싸우
아샤오
Now we're going to move on to the vowels. Kootenai vowels are very interesting in several respects. First, there's 6 of them. 3 short and 3 long. The short vowels are written with an I, a U, and an A, pronounced I, U, A. And the long vowels are written similarly with an I dot, U dot, A dot, pronounced I, U, A. Now, for those of you coming from English or another European language, vowel length is not distinctive in English. In Kootenai it is. So you're going to have to learn to listen for it and also learn how to articulate it. We're going to have our native speakers again model the short vowels. 23, E.
skin goods
skin goods
skin goods
skin goods
24, U.
쭈쭈
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 25, Ah.
pusnana
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 Okay, you'll notice that when the I is a short I, it sounds close to I. And one of the ways to tell whether you're dealing with E, a long vowel, or I, the short vowel, is to listen for that distinction. Similarly, the other vowels will sound more lax than their tenser, longer counterparts. The long vowels then, 26, long E,
kikis
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 27, long U,
cuckoo
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 and 28, long A.
kakin
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 That completes all of the sounds, the 28 sounds you'll need in order to speak Kootenai. One last thing deserves some comment, and that's comparing English consonants with Kootenai consonants. If you look on the last page of your handout, you'll notice quite a different configuration for English and Kootenai. And that should alert you to the fact that you're coming into a very different sound system and that you're going to need to practice and you're going to need to get with a native speaker in order to master it. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed the tape.